Hello and welcome back to Punisher's Paintball, guys. This is Media Guy Doug coming at you with another loader review. Today we're going to be comparing the Dye R2 loader, been out for a while, kind of tried and true, versus the new JT Triad, the new space loader, or whatever you want to call it. Been pretty interesting to watch its trajectory. I've heard some complaints, I've heard some love. So far, no complaints out of the Punisher's camp. We are aware of some of the issues that have been going wrong, at least in the Pro Division, but haven't seen them here. We are actively testing this and using it every week and not having problems. So don't know what to tell you about that, but we're going to compare these guys for everything that they are, everything I could possibly think of, and when we're all done, you guys get to let me know what you thought, because you're going to leave me a comment. I'd also love if you'd subscribe to the channel, like the video, and when you've made up your mind on which one of these things you want to buy from Punisher's Paintball, use the link in the description. Thank you.
I'm so free.
Alright, thanks for coming back. So, let's just get right into the down and dirty. Let's talk price. Stock, coming out the gate, no speed feed, no nothing, $189 for this all black rotor. Some of the colors get up to $199 or a little more, but for a stock, just black on black, Dye R2, you're going to be looking at $189 out the gate, so $190, which is already $40 more expensive than $150 for the JT Triad loader, which already comes fully equipped with rain lid and speed feed, everything you need, all the fixings. Then you're going to have to add an extra $35 for yourself to get a speed feed for your Dye R2. So, all told, if you stick with the standard $190 black on black R2, you're going to be in for, I'm doing mental math, what is that, $125, I believe, all sold. So, or sorry, $225, because I can do math. But yeah, so you're going to be all in for $225 all told after you get everything you need. So, nearly $100 more just to put a speed feed and have the thing fully set and ready to go. Just want to keep that in mind as we go through features here. So we're going to start off the top by saying that this capacity is probably going to be somewhere around 215, I think is what I've read. And then here starts off at about 220 or so, and then you can expand by putting this thing to the side and lifting your shell a little bit. Sorry, this is brand new just out the box, so all these tolerances are super tight. But the R2 will expand to allow for about 60 more balls, roughly. So once you get it sitting up top like that, that's gonna give you about 60 more balls, which is cool. Gotta love the extra capacity. Love that if you're a back player or a home player, it gives you a little bit more time holding that lane off the brake to keep that snake player in before you have to grab a pod and reload. So really cool feature for the R2, really do. I think they're the first that ever since I got into paintball that I remember being a thing. And then Spire came out with their 280. They also released a bigger top shell for the older rotor platform. All this has now really become a thing, other than, of course, the Pinocchio. That I think was really the OG for the extra capacity loaders that are out there. But really cool feature for the R2 that I have to mention. So let's talk how these things feed, other than just their capacity differences. The JT Triad is going to come at you with two feeding mechanisms. It's going to have kind of a dual redundancy built in case something goes wrong with one of them. One is going to be that it has vibration sensing technology, very similar to the Spire platform. And then it also has brake beam eyes within the loader. So God forbid if one of the two has an issue on the field, if you get some bad oily paint, eyes aren't really working too well, no big deal, still is going to sense the vibration of your gun cycling, so you won't have too much of an issue. This still uses the same old kind of rotor typical, that like patented thing that they have with the many moving pieces and moving fins and very force fed. It's very based on the stack of balls, otherwise known as the, funny enough, ball stack from your gun into the actual feed neck. So it does rely on that. It's a force-fed loader. It will feed stupid fast. I'm going to tell you right now, at speed-wise, while this does average around 15, this is going to be a lot quicker. I'm just telling you that right now. So off the bat, the R2 is going to be the faster loader. However, that's not everything in today's game, because really the main pro format and how most tournaments are running these days for electronic paintball is 10.5. You only need 10.5 balls per second to keep up and actually be legally allowed on the field. So really that speed and that force feeding ability is only going to be relevant now for the players playing mech tournaments, so ICPL, ICC, I'm sure there's a million other one-off leagues out there as well. So it's not as much of a necessity for the standard tournament player, and even for the standard just going to have fun paintball player that just wants to enjoy their weekend. You really don't need to be able to shoot that fast. And honestly, a lot of rec fields probably wouldn't like it if you were cycling your marker that fast at newer players. So arguably not as much of a necessity, except for a very small niche, well, not small, but a very specific niche of paintball players out there. So next, let's get into how easy is it to manage or service either of these two things. Well, first of all, Unlike the LTR and classic rotor platform, to switch from rain lid to your speed feed is very simple. I owned an R2 for a couple of years that I used. I was a previous sponsorship when I was with Ohio State. Really no issue with changing the speed feed. I think their fins are super nice. It's a good size. You can really fit a pod right into it so that when you're loading, you know when the pod is set in and actually giving you all of your paint. That being said as well, I like to point out, giant mouth to fit all of your paint in on the JT loader. And both of them have the softer kind of rubber fins, so that's very direct comparison for the two. But I'd really love to get into ease of taking them apart, putting them back together, all that good stuff. So fair warning, there might be some cutting with me taking this R2 apart and putting it back together, because while I do know how to do it, it's been a while and it's not my favorite thing. So I'm gonna do my best. So to get it disassembled, you wanna push this to the side and start to pull up on the top shell of the loader. That is how you would normally expand it, but then you wanna keep going and it'll actually come unhooked. So I'm gonna do that now for you to get it up and off. There we go. And then let's push it, keep going. Cool, so got it off. So you push it to the left to get it off there, just so you know. And you wanna start it from the all the way down position. Anyway, so now here's your middle layer. This is still a similar kind of setup to the original rotor platform, just a little bit bigger of a middle layer, obviously to expand for the 260. So similarly, or I should say, first of all, you're gonna push down on the back, the nice little spring ramp that they have for you. Lift up on the red tab, and there's also two little red tabs kind of at the base of the hinge for the ramp in the back. You're gonna wanna get a fingernail in and kind of push them toward the back of the loader, because that's another lock that kind of holds this in place. There's also two little black kind of buttons on either side of that initial red tab that we pushed on that you're gonna wanna push in on to help get this out. I use both my thumbs and just kind of pull up on it as I push it. There we go. So once you get those unlatched, then you can kind of jimmy the rest of it out. There we go. So that's just gonna kind of lift out now. There you go. Set that right here. And then from here, this is the same kind of feeding frenzy that we've had in the other die loader as well. I did take it apart fully in the last one. I'm gonna leave it alone for this one. I don't feel the need to take all this out, but it's just the top fins and then a bunch of gears and the actual kind of raceway at the bottom here. So I'll set this back in. I am gonna drop some batteries in this as well so that we can do our comparison. You will see it is 3 AA batteries, alternating sides. There is a Velcro that I could not see because it is black. It is dark in the studio. I'm gonna drop these in. 1, dose, and trace. Cool, get that Velcro all slapped back on there. So as you can see, bit of a process, a lot of kind of wiggling and pushing stuff around, pushing pieces around. I would argue not the most intuitive, nor is it the most fun to deal with putting back together. And then honestly, this middle layer has always been the bane of my existence, because you have to get it really super centered and so that both sides are down flush, and God, it can be an infuriating process. But once you get it, then you're good to go. All right, cool, got that back in. I'm gonna push back down, push back down on the little red lock. Pull these two back forward with my little fingernail. Get that all set into place. Definitely not going anywhere, that's for sure. And then, like a lot of other loaders, get the front lined up here, and then push this thing to the side, push this to the left again, or to the right, I guess, if I'm facing it this way. Then you gotta just kind of get it on there one side at a time to get it to cooperate. There's a couple little lips that's gotta get over. There you go. Shove it down, shut that, and there you go. So there's your R2 with all the fixings inside. Now, JT Triad, very simple to disassemble and reassemble. Open, which is actually difficult because they made a lot of improvements. Little yellow button, push down to unlock, and then there's a little kind of grooved button, press on, bam, easy. This is held in place magnetically, so a little less secure than the R2, but still not really going anywhere. It does have a slight mechanical latch as well, but it's mostly magnetic. Little finger hole in the front, put it in, pull it out. Ooh, see, it's in there. Pull it out this way. There you go, shell, nothing in it except for the magnet that holds it in there. Here's everything that makes the JT Triad the JT Triad. You cannot get to the motor toollessly. The R2 does have that advantage over the JT Triad. However, don't know why you really have to do that. If you're having motor issues with your loader, it's probably spent. Anyway, The actual drive cone is held in magnetically as well. It's just got a lot of grooves that are roughly paintball sized and shaped for about half a ball to just move things along and shove them through. I'm gonna set that bad boy back in there. The magnet actually makes it a little funky to get it in because it just wants to grab onto it no matter what you do. And you are not set in yet, sir. There we go. Clicks right back in. All good to go. Also powered by 3 AA's, just like the DR2. So no difference there whatsoever. But again, this does have 2 different functionalities instead of just being mechanical. It is both the vibration sensor and brake beam eyes, which are all contained in that little black box of electronics that I can't get into without a screwdriver. So once again, got this all set in here. Not going nowhere. Stick the front of the nose cone on. Also, I'd like to point out ramp that it does come with. Stick the front of the nose cone back on. Latch on in the back. Pull up on that lock and shut it. So obviously that was a lot less difficult for me than the R2. And what's sad is I have actually owned this thing before, and still takes me a while to get around to it. So apologize for that. But it, quite frankly, is just more difficult to maneuver all the little stupid clicks and clacks that have to happen for this thing. So getting into some other more important things, I would like to weigh these 2 loaders and see where we come in. Once again, while this is just kind of zeroing, I want to point out, for all told, having all the bells and whistles and pieces that you need at the $189 price point for the stock colors, with the speed feed, you're going to be in for $225 for the R2, and it's going to weigh in at 1 pound 4.0 ounces, and then the JT Triad will be 1 pound 3.8 ounces. So just slightly heavier. The DR2 is just slightly heavier. I do believe that they used somewhat lighter materials in the R2 versus the original rotor, but then with all the added kind of mechanics and the expansion ability, that still does add some weight. So just slightly heavier than the JT Triad. But so guys, what are the benefits and what are the cons of each one, right? So better pricing by and large for the JT Triad. Probably more reliable feeding because it has 2 fail safes in it, and it doesn't really have as many areas where it can jam. And personally, I think the disassembly and the ability to clean it and all that is just absolutely top notch. I really am happy with that and think it's very simplistic, which is great. R2 benefits are, as I forgot to mention again, the ability to unjam whenever it does jam. However, does have a bit of a reputation for jamming. Can feed a lot faster than the JT Triad and most loaders out there. So really good for mech because it's force fed and very quick. And it is that mechanical feeding, but it's also almost $100 more expensive than this competitor, the JT Triad, for a loader that really just goes faster and jams more often. So I can't say that I can make the strongest argument for the DR2 unless you are a dedicated mech player and you do like the ability of being able to expand your shell and hold 60 more balls. So that is a very valid reason to want to get the DR2, but outside of that, I really think the stronger argument, better bang for your buck, is going to be the JT Triad. But you guys can obviously let me know and think for yourselves and tell me in the comments which one you like more and which one you picked up. And the way to pick it up from Punisher's Paintball is to use the link in the description below after you like the video and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching today, and we'll catch you in the next one.
I'm so free.